Hey everyone, welcome to the investor.bet AFL Finals Week 1 betting trends preview. In this video, I'm going to go through all 4 finals, the 2 qualifying finals, the 2 elimination finals. I'm going to share with you some betting insights on these games. I'm going to go through how I'm approaching betting on it for profit. We'll go through some stats, some history, everything you need to know to make the best betting decisions on these matchups. And we have 4 really genuinely good finals games, the way the ladders finalized after the final round of the season. Thursday night, Adelaide against Collingwood, a rematch from a few weeks ago where Adelaide won at the Adelaide Oval by 3 points. Then we have Geelong versus the Brisbane Lions. Geelong at home at the MCG, but Brisbane have beaten them both times this season. GWS against Hawthorn in Sydney, and then Fremantle against Gold Coast over in Perth. The Fremantle Gold Coast game is the only one that's potentially going to be affected by the weather. There's rain around on Friday and Saturday in Perth. This is obviously early in the week, and that can change between now and then. But the rest of the forecast looks clear for the other 3 games. Before we get into and go through and look at the games coming up, I just want to quickly recap what happened in the final round of the season, talk about how we got here. We'll go through some of the betting insights from this round as well. Thursday night, Carlton beat Essendon 90-56. Collingwood won the first game on Friday night by 6 over Melbourne. Port Adelaide by 4 points over Gold Coast, which meant that Gold Coast then had to beat Essendon on the following Wednesday in the makeup game. Saturday, Adelaide by 13 over North. Geelong 39-point winners over Richmond. Sydney 118-point winners over West Coast, who scored 51 points, all 3 favourites winning that day. GWS beat St Kilda by 11 points. And then the 2 big games on the Sunday afternoon and night. Fremantle went over to Melbourne and beat the Western Bulldogs. The Bulldogs were huge favourites for this game, but a massive second quarter by the Dockers got them the win, got them into the finals, and then pushed the Bulldogs, or kept them outside the top 8 effectively. And then the Brisbane Lions, 10-point winners over Hawthorn. Brisbane kicked a lot of behinds in this game, wasted a few chances early, and ended up being a really close game. And then on the Wednesday night, Gold Coast locked in their first finals appearance with a 95-point win over Essendon, 153 points to 58. During this round, home teams won 5 of the 10 games and also covered 5 of the 10. That means overall for the entire regular season 2025, home teams covered 106 games and away teams covered 101 games. That's based off the closing lines. So when the first ball is bounced, what were the odds at the start of the game? That's what it broke down to on the year. On this round as well, favourites won 8 of the 10 games. The 2 underdogs who won were Port Adelaide when they beat Gold Coast, Travis Boak's last game, and also Ken Hinkley's last game. I'm in charge of Port Adelaide, and then obviously Fremantle beating the Western Bulldogs were the other underdog who won. Favourites, though, only covered the spread in 4 of the 10 games. There were 4 favourites who won, but also didn't cover. The favourites who did cover the spread, will run through them. Carlton against Essendon in the first game. The Swans against West Coast. Brisbane against Hawthorn, and then Gold Coast against Essendon. Every other underdog covered the spread in the rest of the games. 5 games went over the total, 5 games went under, and that means overall for the season, 114 games went under, 93 games went over. And just coming back to the favourites underdogs, it was a year of the underdogs, 108 to 99 overall. We still have 9 games left effectively on the season through these final series. If the favorite covers every single game, then we'll have a 108 record. Otherwise, any more underdogs to cover will give them a locked in underdog year so far, but only a 9 discrepancy between the 2 of them. Now, looking ahead to the games coming up, I'm really excited to run through these games. We're going to start with the Thursday night game, Adelaide against Collingwood. The Crows opened $1.62 favourites, minus 8.5. That line has moved to 9.5, and they're into $1.58. Collingwood $2.30 out to $2.40, and the total opened at 161.5 and is down to 160.5 at this stage. Firstly, Collingwood have a great record against the Crows. They've won 10 of the past 11 head-to-head. Though Adelaide won the most recent match, round 23 this season, so only a few weeks ago. Adelaide were $1.50 for that game, so they're slightly longer this time around, and they won by 3 points, 59 to 56. looking through what happened in that game, Collingwood got the start early. They led 33-8 at quarter time. So a 25-point lead at that break. But the second quarter, that was all Adelaide. They kicked all 5 goals during that term and kept the Collingwood side to just 1 point. Third quarter, 1 goal each. Collingwood kicked 1 goal 4. Adelaide kicked 1 goal 1. And then the final term, 2 goals each. And they were able to maintain basically 9 or less point margin the entire way through the second half. So once Isaac Rankin, who won't be playing in this game, kicked that goal just before halftime, Adelaide were able to maintain that margin, never let Collingwood get back in front in the game. Stats-wise, 71-37 inside 50s. Generally, like if you have that much inside 50 dominance, an extra 34 entries, you should win. I'd even go enough to say over 95% of games, but just Collingwood couldn't get it done, and they only ended up with 2 additional scoring shots. So it's not like they kicked 7 goals, 15 or something like that, or 6 goals, 20 from those 71 entries. They only had 16 scoring shots from 71 entries. So really poor efficiency going inside 50 by Collingwood. Alongside their dominant inside 50 count, they also won the stoppages 52-38, particularly around the ground where they are plus 13. Turnovers both in the mid to high 70s, quite considerably high. Both these teams are good at forcing turnovers, so that likely contributed to that. The players that really had an impact on this game, Nick Dacos 29, Josh Worrell 27. No huge disposal numbers, like we didn't have any players in the 30 plus. Goals wise, doubles for Walker, Membry, Fogarty and Elliott, and then quite a number of single goal scorers. Around the clearances, Pendlebury, Dacos both with 8, Ned Long, Dawson and Cameron all with 3 clearances in this matchup. This is a really interesting game. I think the home field advantage is going to be crucial for the Crows here. Their record against Collingwood is the main concerning factor, but I think with this home crowd behind them, it could be enough to get them over the line. These are the top 2 defenses going against each other, so efficiency going forward is going to be critical. And I just think on recent form, Collingwood's just really struggling to generate scores in general. Like last week against Melbourne, they only scored the 82 points. That was their highest score across their last 4 games. Prior to that, 93 against Richmond. But against like genuine teams, they have really been struggling to get past this mid-60s mark. And that's definitely not going to be enough to beat Adelaide, who averaged 99 points a game this season. And unless we see a significant turnaround from this week off by Collingwood, I think Adelaide is going to be that little bit too strong. Like Collingwood's form earlier in the year, significantly better than what it's been in recent times. Their defense is still holding up well, but just their attack is just really struggling. Across their past 7 games, they're only averaging 69 points a game. And against the good teams, they're just not finding enough points to be able to win. Obviously, if this turns into a real low-scoring grind, then it could go either way. But the way these teams have been playing in recent times, and definitely leaning towards Adelaide. Outside of that recent game against Collingwood, Adelaide has scored 87 or more points in every game since their bye in round 15. So that's their last 9 games. And majority of those games, they've had 100 plus points scored, which I don't think they're going to get that many against Collingwood here in the final. But I think if they can score around 80 to 85 points, they should be able to get to that point, and that'll be enough for them to win the game. Their defense has also been really strong in recent times. Like the game against North in their final game, not really worried about them conceding 100 there. Didn't really matter all that much. They just needed to get the win. Whereas prior to that, they were keeping teams to around the 50 to 70 points consistently, which I really like in this game. I think they can keep Collingwood under that 70 mark and go a long way towards them winning. I'm thinking around 85 to 70 final score here. So Adelaide by around the 2 to 3 goals. 7 of the past 8 games between these sides have been decided by 19 points or less, including the last 6 in a row. The last 2 games at the Adelaide Oval, you see a 3-point win for Collingwood and you can see a 3-point win here for the Crows and a 1-point win for Collingwood back in 2023. But yeah, happy to back Adelaide here to get the win. It's also a game where I feel like you could target the margins 1 to 39, 1 to 24 for the Crows as well. The total, as I said, has come down from the 161.5 down to 160.5. The fair number I make for this game is closer to 170. However, with the finals factor into this, then I can see why this number is lower. 8 of the past 9 head have gone under, including the last 5 in a row. Adelaide, they've had 2 of their last 3 games go under the total, and Collingwood, in conjunction with their inability to score, have had their last 7 straight go under. At 161.5, I'd lean towards the under, but it's a very low number. But you also have the best 2 defensive teams on the year going up against each other, so I can definitely see this being one of the lowest scoring games, particularly how the game was played a couple of weeks ago. Like Adelaide, and slight lean towards the unders in the opening final. Friday night, we have Geelong against Brisbane. Geelong are $1.70 and minus 5.5 points on the handicap. Those were the opening odds. That market now looks like Geelong $1.67 and minus 6.5, so a bit of money for the Cats, and the total has stayed at the 170.5. Brisbane, they've won 4 of the past 5 against Geelong, including the past 3. 2 of those games this season, and then the prelim final at the MCG last year, where Geelong started $1.87 favourites, and Brisbane won that game by 10 points. Geelong, though, whilst they haven't been beating Brisbane, they've been doing well at covering the spread. They've covered 5 of the past 7 against Brisbane. Also, this matchup has a history of being fairly close, with 3 of the past 5 being decided by 11 points or less. The last meeting was round 15 this season at GMHBA Stadium. Geelong were $1.36, laying 18.5 points, and lost the game by 41 points. Looking through the timeline for that game, Geelong did kick 6 goals 15, whereas Brisbane were much more accurate, 14 goals 8. You switch that accuracy, you've got a very close game on your hands. But Brisbane led this one start to finish. They kicked the first 4 goals of the game and led 26-9 at quarter time, by 23 points at halftime, pushed it out to 32 at 3/4 time, and then out to 41. So they extended their lead at every break and won all 4 quarters. So not only led wire to wire, they also won all 4 quarters when you look at them individually. So pretty dominant performance by the Lions. Statistically, they had much more of the ball, +7 inside 50s. Stoppages were virtually even. Turnovers were even as well. Brisbane with about 30 extra marks in the game, and just inaccurate goal kicking as well. Expect Geelong to take more of their chances and kick much straighter this time around. But I really don't think there's much between these two sides. Looking at their form leading into this game, Geelong have been playing against some real inferior opposition. They haven't played a top 8 team since back in round 18 against GWS. So that was actually 7 games ago that they played the Giants, and they lost that game by 26 points. Their 6 wins in a row that they've had leading into this game have all been against teams who finished outside the top 8. Their last 2 games against top 8 sides in GWS and also Brisbane come into that have both been losses. They had a 24-point win over Gold Coast. That was their last win against a top 8 side. Prior to that, you have to go back to round 8 against Collingwood to find their most recent win against a top 8 side beyond the one against Gold Coast. They only won that by 3 points, and that was a game where Collingwood did have a shot to win the game but missed it. So I have real concerns over, as much as Geelong have been winning games by this like 40 plus points every single week, it's all been against low ranked sides. So they haven't really been tuned up, I guess you could say, for finals with the opposition that they've been playing, and then also with their kind of poor form recently, losing 3 of their last 4 games against other top 8 teams. That's definitely a concern. Home field advantage is obviously going to help them, but Brisbane, they've had games against Hawthorn, Fremantle, Sydney, Collingwood, Gold Coast, Western Bulldogs. That's their last 6 games leading in. Every single one of those teams is either in the top 8 or was trying to get into the top 8. So they should be well and truly primed to take on Geelong here. They couldn't have a better lead in towards finals. Lachie Neale should return. So at these current prices, with Geelong clear favourites, I definitely like Brisbane in this game. Geelong's numbers definitely inflated from beating up on bad sides, whereas Brisbane defensively are basically on par with them, and in attack they're not all that far behind, particularly when you look at like shots on goal and those kind of things. Geelong have just been the slightly more accurate side of the two of them. And then in terms of efficiency numbers, going inside 50, that's where Geelong really have an advantage. But I think Brisbane will be able to minimize that compared to the teams that they've been facing. It's something really important to pay attention to is not only just like teams winning games, how much they're winning by, that kind of thing, but also the quality of the opposition they're facing. And I think this matchup really shows us the difference between the two sides. If Geelong really are super efficient, take all their chances, they'll probably win the game. But I think if they're just half off and just that stronger opposition catches them early, I think if Brisbane start, it'll go a long way towards them winning this game. So I like the lines by a small margin. You take them 1-39. You take them 1-24 as well, similar to the Adelaide game. I think Brisbane will get over the line. You could also just take them on the money line. They are the underdog as well. There's definitely value in that $2.20 range that they're currently sitting at. $2.25 is the current odds looking at Sportsbet. Obviously, you want to shop around and make sure you get the best possible prices. The total at 170.5. 7 of the past 9 head-to-head have gone under the total between these two sides, including the last 2. We do have a higher total this time around, being at the MCG, than we did at GMHBA, and also a 10-point higher total than at the Gabba earlier this year. However, this game was affected by the weather conditions. So I feel like this line is fairly accurate. I'd once again be leaning towards the unders. Brisbane, they've had 5 of their last 7 games go under the total. Geelong have had 2 of their last 3 go under, but overall in the season have been a pretty big overs side. But at this current number, leaning towards the unders. GWS versus Hawthorn. The Giants opened $1.80 favourites for this game, minus 3.5. The current odds for them in this game is $1.79. Hawthorn out to $2.07. However, the handicap has still stayed the same, and the total has moved up from 168.5 to 169.5, even though the past 6 head-to-head have all gone under the total points line. GWS, they've won 4 of the past 6 against Hawthorn. But keep in mind, the past 5 have been decided by 13 or less between these sides. So it's historically been a really close game. To have 5 consecutive games against each other, basically playing 2 a season, be decided by around 2 goals or less, there's very little between the two sides. Home field advantage for GWS is very important though in this matchup. They've won 8 of the past 9 home games against Hawthorn. That's massively in their favour as well. Looking at the last time they played, it was down in Tasmania all the way back in round 3. So quite a bit of time has passed since these sides have last played against each other. But Hawthorn started $1.54 favourites down there, and they won that game by 2 goals, 76 points to 64. Looking through what happened in that game, we'll bring up the summary. GWS got out to a really strong start. They kicked the first 5 goals of the game, kept Hawthorn goalless in the first term. This was a game where you could basically, particularly in the first half, only score down one end of the field due to the wind. So you'll notice GWS kicked 5 goals to none in the first term. Hawthorn kicked 6 goals to none in the second term. They found the front at halftime, the Hawks. They led by 7 points. The Giants got the first 2 goals of the third quarter, and then Hawthorn responded. This was the key period. Gunston goal, then Harry Morrison, Hardwick, and then Gunston got his second goal. So 4 goals into the wind. That was the crucial point. Hawthorn took a 20-point lead into 3-quarter time with the wind at their backs. They didn't kick a goal in the 4th quarter when you kind of think they should have. GWS found 2 goals, but Hawthorn were able to hold on for a 12-point win. Stats-wise, for this game, Hawks were plus 14 inside 50, so they had the majority of field position. Clearances tied at 33. Turnovers, GWS just slightly more with plus 4. Marks both at 82, but Hawthorn with the plus 8 marks inside 50. Hawthorn had significantly more scoring shots. They kicked 10 goals 16 to just 9 goals 10, so we had 26 to 19 scoring shots. Looking into this game, GWS, they come into this matchup on a 3-game win streak, wins over St Kilda, Gold Coast, and North Melbourne. Not like the greatest form line coming into this game in terms of opposition they faced. They've also got an 88-point loss against the Western Bulldogs 4 games back. And then outside of that, Sydney, Essendon are their other games. They haven't really had a great deal of competition recently. So as much as when you just outline their form, they've won 9 of their last 10 games. And they've mostly been against low-ranked sides. The win against Geelong definitely are the best. And then a good win on the Gold Coast against the Suns as well in there. Hawthorn, they've won 2 of their last 3, losing to Brisbane and Adelaide off their past 4 games, and also a close loss against Fremantle. Now, this is the key for this game: is can Hawthorn travel interstate and win this game? They win one of the better home state sides when they're playing in Victoria or in Tasmania. But when they've had to travel, particularly against good opposition, and potentially that's like contributing to their poor interstate record, that's where they've struggled. Earlier in the season, they lost against Port Adelaide by 30 points. Then they also lost against Gold Coast at TIO Stadium. They lost against Fremantle in Perth. They lost against Adelaide in Adelaide, and they lost against Brisbane in Brisbane. That is the big concern here for Hawthorn. Now, I think in terms of opposition, GWS is probably out of those ones like Brisbane, Adelaide, etc. This is certainly an easier option for them. And I do think this is going to be a game that's going to come right down to the wire. There's very little between these two sides. Attack-wise, they're virtually even. There's nothing between them. Defensively, Hawthorn are the better defensive side. So that also counteracts a bit of that home field advantage for GWS as well. Lineups are going to be really important for the Giants here. They have a few key players on their injury list right now. It'll be interesting to see which or if any of those players come back into the team as well. So you want to kind of just wait to see that, particularly if you want to back Hawthorn, because likely if a few of those players come in for the Giants, their market or their price will shorten. And for me, I think at the current odds, leaning towards Hawthorn. I think this game should be a pick'em, $1.90 either side. And so at plus money, 205, 210 for Hawthorn. I'm happy to go their way as the underdog here. Last time they met at a Giants home game, it was in Canberra, round 21, 2024, and GWS only won that game by 2 points. It was a game that really could have gone either way. I think this is a game, it's going to be a 1-2 score game. You could look at the try bets. I think that's a good option, or take the Hawks as the underdog, purely based off the value as well. The total at 168.5. The past 6 head-to-head have gone under. Hawthorn, they've had 6 of their last 7 games go under, whereas the Giants have had their last 3 games go under. Whereas the Giants, they've had their last 3 games go over total against like high-scoring sides as well, teams with poor defenses. At this current number, 168.5, be leaning towards the under. I don't think there's a strong side either way, though. I think they've got this number pretty spot on. You'll see it's virtually in sync with what the previous totals have been between these two sides. But I did expect a little bit of a lower number just with it being a finals game. So at this current 168, 169.5, lean towards the under in that game. So like Hawthorn or the try bet and the under there. And then final game, Fremantle against Gold Coast. Fremantle, they opened $1.52, which they still are. The total though, and we've got a line at 11.5, and then for the total points line, it opened 166.5, is down to 163.5 with that weather report. Fremantle, they've won 4 of the past 5 against Gold Coast, including 3 in a row. The past 12 between these sides have all been decided by 36 or less, and Fremantle, they've won 5 of the past 6 home games against the Gold Coast. Last time they met, and was the only time this season, was round 12 on the Gold Coast, where the Suns started $1.38 favourites and lost by 11 points. That game, Fremantle had 20 scoring shots to 19. They kicked 11-9 compared to the Suns' 9 goals 10. It was a game played in really tough conditions, but Fremantle led virtually start to finish. There was a point here midway through the third quarter where Gold Coast got themselves a point in front, but basically the entire game, Fremantle led by between 1 to 20 points start to finish. Couldn't get up beyond that margin. There was a couple of points where they got it out to 20, but couldn't take it any further. Stats-wise, +9 inside 50s, which is important in those conditions. Clearances were +9 to Gold Coast, and then turnovers were very even in this game. Low number of marks. There'll be a high number of tackles as well in this game. Both teams in the mid-80s. It's going to be interesting if we end up getting similar conditions. I want to see closer to the start of this game if that report of the rain is going to be correct, because it definitely favors Fremantle if that is the case. as we saw in the game earlier this year, and with them being at home as well, is certainly really going to play into their advantage. Coming into this game, Fremantle, obviously 15-point winners over the Western Bulldogs, really big win. They bounced back from that 57-point loss against the Lions at home prior to that. They've only lost 2 games since round 9 against Collingwood, so they've won 12 of their last 14. So really good form leading into this game. And then for the Gold Coast Suns, they've beat Essendon and then obviously lost to Port and GWS, trying to wrap up that top 8 spot. Definitely agree Fremantle should be favourites for this game, but I do think it's one that could be a close one. I haven't fully decided how I want to play this game at this stage. Somewhat in between Fremantle 1-24 or the try bet, either team 1-24. I just want to dig into Gold Coast road form a little bit more between now and when this game starts. This season, Gold Coast have only lost 1 game by more than 35 points, which was against Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval, where they lost 107-46. Outside of that, their losses have been fairly close ones, and they stats-wise match up really well against Fremantle. They are better in majority of categories, even defensive numbers, which I'm somewhat surprised about. And Fremantle have made a bit of a habit this season winning a lot of close games. Like when you look through, they have plenty of wins in this 2 to 3 goal kind of range. So that's going to sit right around what the current line is as well. There's quite a lot of ways you can play this game, but I think instead of taking like Gold Coast at the plus 11.5, I'd rather take the try bet, get Gold Coast out to plus 24.5, as I don't think Fremantle are going to lose this game by more than 4 goals. The concern obviously with Fremantle here is, did they play their grand final against the Western Bulldogs? They've effectively already played one elimination final, whereas Gold Coast, yes, the game against Essendon, if they lost, they weren't going to make it, but it wasn't the kind of game that Fremantle had against Western Bulldogs, if you know what I mean. A lot easier contest at home compared to a road game in Melbourne against one of the most informed teams in the second half of the season, and going over there and winning that was a lot bigger challenge than what the Gold Coast Suns had. I wouldn't be surprised if Gold Coast could jag this game by 6 to 12 points. Otherwise, I think Fremantle end up winning by a small margin. That's probably at this stage how I'm going to play it. But if there is the rain around, then it's certainly going to favor Fremantle more than it's going to favor Gold Coast in terms of the style of play. The total is 166.5. Down to 163.5 now. 8 of the past 9 head-to-head have gone under the total. Fremantle, they've had 4 of their last 5 go over the total. And also Gold Coast, they have had 2 of their last 3 go over. This is another game where I'd be leaning towards the unders. It's hard to really see any of the 4 games this week just being super strong overs games. So I don't think you can go wrong backing unders at the moment. The bookmakers definitely put each line up a few points under what it should be, but that's what we always see around this time of the year. But just another one where I think lean towards the unders, particularly if there is enough rain around. As if it is dry conditions, then I can see it going the other way. So if we got like a flat, dry track, then I think Gold Coast would really try and get their game style going, and it would only just go under. So you want to pay close attention to the weather report. But if it's raining, unders. If it's fine and okay, then this is a game where probably the one that would most likely go over, just due to the fact that both these teams can find points and neither are super strong defensively. Both just around the average mark, slightly above average, but nothing major. So that's my early look at the finals. They're really good games. I'm super excited to see how these games play out on the weekend. I'll be posting all my final bets in the AFL Best Bets membership. And that's where you can also use the bet finders as well. And then other ways you can approach betting on these games in terms of player props. I just want to mention that you definitely can target a few Adelaide players against Collingwood. I think Adelaide will have no issue getting plenty of the ball in this game. Also, Brisbane should have no issue getting plenty of the ball against Geelong. So a few Lions players in there as well. Brisbane are also the number 2 disposal side in the league. Hawthorn against GWS, disposal-wise, both teams are in the top 3 for least disposals conceded. So just be a little cautious on disposal props in that one. And then Fremantle against Gold Coast, both sides are about average in the numbers they give up, so that's also another game. But if it is rainy, then that can also affect it. Noah Anderson did have 39 disposals in the game last time against Fremantle. Fremantle obviously be focused on trying to shut him down in this game. Exciting times coming up. Really appreciate you guys watching these videos. Hopefully you've enjoyed them throughout the season. I'll be back to preview the semi-finals, the prelim finals, and the grand final. So make sure you subscribe, stay tuned for those videos. And also there'll be other videos coming up on this channel soon where we'll be going through specific betting strategies for you to profit and make more money from betting besides just looking at the games and analyzing the stats. So I'm really excited to start sharing some of that stuff with you as well. Thanks guys. Hope you have a great day and enjoy the games on the weekend. Good luck.